Mike Florio is moving into a new house as we speak. I said, Mike, I got questions here. He joins us now. Do you have a man cave in your new house?
Oh, yes.
Okay, give me an idea.
You would approve.
I would. Okay. Got beer on tap?
No, you would not approve.
Okay, what do you have in your man cave in your new house?
I have bubble top hockey. I have a pool table coming tomorrow, I think, and I've got a shuffleboard. You know, I saw the shuffleboard at your alternate man cave. Not all of us can have two man caves.
Yeah.
At your New York City man cave, you have the shuffleboard there, so I got the idea.
Nice.
I got to get me one of these.
Nice.
So I've got that coming. And I've got a pinball machine, but it's in a spot where it's going to look lonely, so I'm going to have to get a second pinball machine like you have as well.
Well, I have the NBA pinball, and I have the Dale Earnhardt Jr. pinball machine. Are you do you have a sports-related pinball machine?
I don't. You know, we got a Lord of the Rings pinball machine about 10 years ago, which is actually a lot of fun to play. But there was a Monday Night Football 20th anniversary machine that came out 20, 25 years ago.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, refurbished with all LED lights so the bulbs don't blow out every 2 days. So I may have to. Now that I've mentioned that, someone else is going to buy it.
Would you like an autographed picture of me for the man cave?
Sure.
Okay. All right.
As long as McLovin's not in it.
Okay. Pro Football Talk every weekday at 5:30 Eastern on NBC Sports Network. Preempted this week due to cycling, but you can see Mike and company with that great show. All right, a couple of things here. Is the NFL changing its stance on marijuana with the testing? Or am I reading something into this that's not there?
Well, the NFL is willing to soften its stance on marijuana, reportedly, as part of a comprehensive substance abuse policy and steroids policy that is all hinging on a final agreement on HGH testing. So we've heard in the past that maybe Adderall would be shifted from the steroids policy over to the substance abuse policy, and now the report from ESPN.com was that the thresholds for marijuana concentration will go up, the discipline will go down. It's all hinging on working out a deal for HGH testing. And, Dan, when I saw that report, I thought, this is the NFL trying to entice the players to finally agree to HGH testing, because I still don't know why the NFL cares about marijuana. If a guy gets arrested for it, fine. But why if it's not a performance-enhancing drug, and they don't think it is, or it would be under that policy, why does the NFL care if guys are smoking marijuana in their free time, on their own time, unless they get arrested for it? If you get arrested for it, fine. If you're in the privacy of your own home and you're doing what you do, I don't know why the league cares, and I don't know why the union doesn't stand up and say, let's just get rid. You want HGH testing? Let's just get rid of marijuana testing altogether.
How does that affect Josh Gordon?
Well, technically it doesn't, because he would fall under the penalties that previously existed. But if they would get, that would be part of the deal, because everything's negotiable. So anybody who's currently in the gears of the system, you could say, okay, well, we want this for this guy and that for that guy and that for that guy. So it could help Josh Gordon avoid a full-year ban from the NFL, even if he otherwise has violated the policy. And if this most recent violation had a concentration that would be below the new threshold, how can that as a practical matter hurt Josh Gordon if it does come to that?
It's amazing, though, when I was told this a couple of weeks ago by a former offensive lineman who said that they are going to try to get HGH testing, and as a carrot to the players, they're going to lessen the penalties on marijuana use. They're going to basically turn their head. They're going to look the other way with marijuana use if you will sign up for HGH testing. And I'm thinking, is it that? Is it going to be that obvious? He said, well, it won't be. They're going to look the other way. But believe me, if you agree to HGH testing, we will lessen the penalties, wink, wink, on marijuana use. And it's come to fruition here. At least it looks like it could.
Dan, it needs to happen. One product, HGH, undermines the integrity of the game. It makes guys artificially bigger, faster, and stronger, and more susceptible to injury. Marijuana has no effect whatsoever on the game, and you hear anecdotally all the stories about the guys who use it to manage their pain. There are studies out there suggesting that it actually helps guys recover from brain injuries. Why not find a way to let guys do what they're already doing? It's only the stupid ones who get caught. I mean, let's be candid about it. A high percentage of guys are smoking. They know when on the calendar they can smoke. The window, ironically, opens on April 20 every year for the annual test that you have. Once you're clear, if you're not in the program, you can smoke all you want. If you get caught, then you got to stop. So I just think that the NFL needs to be practical about this. And if you could dangle that as the way to get them to agree to HGH testing, I say go for it.
He's Mike Florio from ProFootballTalk.com joining us, Dan Patrick Show. how the Cleveland Browns are handling the Johnny Manziel situation. I don't know if there's a book that says here's the how-to of when you bring in a big-time celebrity quarterback, star, maybe bigger than the franchise in his opinion. I don't know. But it feels like Jimmy Haslam is worried. You can't draft Johnny Manziel, and then all of a sudden you want Johnny Manziel to be different. You're drafting him because he's Johnny Manziel. So what am I missing with the Browns' approach here?
I think that the Browns are doing what they feel like they have to do. Mike Zimmer, the Vikings coach, had a little bit of that tough love in advance. He was on a radio station in Houston, and he called out Johnny Manziel. And I thought, hey, this is Zimmer thinking this guy may be on my team, and I want to be able to press his buttons and get him to reel it in. I don't know that putting these limits on media access and the owner saying, hey, Johnny's got to change it. Look, you should have drafted Teddy Bridgewater then. If you want a guy who's never going to
But do you think that
trouble,
they were close, Mike? Because that whole thing yesterday with Bridgewater on the show when he told me he didn't want to go there, did he not want to go there because they decided at the 11th hour they were going to take Manziel instead of Teddy?
Maybe he sensed while he was there. You pick up a lot of stuff that isn't said. I think Haslam wanted Manziel, and I love it how the Browns will officially say Haslam had no role whatsoever in the selection of Manziel. No, he had no role in the official decision, but he's in the room, he's asking questions, he's stating opinions, and anybody who wants to continue to be employed by a guy who does that is going to detect what he is saying and act accordingly. And if you don't take the guy that it's obvious the owner wants, and the guy you take doesn't work out, you're going to be out of a job.
How do you keep Manziel out of the starting lineup?
You can't. It's impossible. And look, we've seen it. I remember with Ryan Tannehill 2 years ago when he was drafted by the Dolphins. They put him at number 3. So he ends up being the starter. I mean, all these guys are going to end up being the starter. This gives them a way to let the kid think that he's accomplished something. He's grown, he's matured, he's worked his way up the ladder. And then it also gives you some protection because if the guy just ends up being terrible, then you don't have to demote him. It would be worse if you make the guy the first stringer and then you get to the middle of August and say, oh, my gosh, how can we let this kid play? So I think it's the natural progression. You put them at the bottom, you make them earn it, and then they do earn it, and then they're ready to go. I'd be surprised if any of the 3 guys taken in the first round isn't starting week 1. Even Bortles, with the Jaguars saying they're all in for Henne. I mean, Henne's seen this movie before. He lived it 2 years ago in Miami.
Underclassmen not getting drafted, is it just a coincidence we had a lot of guys who weren't drafted but went in with the expectations they would be, or is this going to border on the epidemic?
Well, I say this every year. If every guy who thought he was going to be taken in the first round was taken in the first round, there'd be 100 first-round draft picks. Everybody artificially inflates his own value. There are a lot of agents out there who just don't know what the teams really think. And there's a lot of people out there who are projecting way too far in advance where underclassmen are going to be. So we're going to see the mock drafts now with underclassmen included, and you're going to have some kid somewhere who's going to think, I'm going to be a first-round pick next year, and once that's in his head, it ain't coming out. And it makes it easier for the agents and the family members and everybody else to cajole the guy into declaring for the draft when maybe he would have benefited from another year of college football. And I don't think it's going away because the way the NFL set up the system now, there's a strong incentive to get to the NFL, to put in your 3 or 4 years, and that's when you make your money if you become a star player in your first 3 or 4 years in the NFL.
Can you tell people not doing mock drafts, or they're doing mock drafts to not put underclassmen in there?
You can't tell them, but you hope that they will. And you hope that the guys out there that are formulating their mock drafts for 2015 will consider the impact of including the underclassmen, that it provides the ammunition to anyone in a position to influence the underclassmen. Just let that play. The teams don't even scout the underclassmen until they've declared. You're not allowed to talk about underclassmen until they've declared. I think the people in this draft expert industry need to take a step back and look in the mirror and ask themselves, do we have a role in creating these expectations? Once that cat's out of the bag, it's too late to convince a kid that he should stick around. Now, should he stick around and play football for free? I don't know. I got a problem with that, too. But if we're going to focus on whether a guy prematurely gave up his eligibility, I think the people who are creating the expectations have a big part of that.
Before I let you go, if Jameis Winston was in this year's draft, how high would he have gone?
Well, the thinking was he'd have been number 1. But
how do
we know that? No one has done the full scouting of him, the full workup. He hasn't had the interviews. He hasn't had his pro day workout. He hasn't had the private workouts. Jadeveon Clowney was supposedly going to be the number 1 pick overall if he hadn't played at all this year, and it still was up until the first day of the draft not clear that he was going to be the first overall pick. So the guy still has to go through the full process. But I think he's got a lot of potential. There are some issues with his mechanics, like there always seem to be with every quarterback. But the thinking is if he comes out next year, he's going to be in the Jadeveon Clowney slot.
Thank you, Mike. Good luck with the move.
All right. Thanks, pal.
That's Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk.